Ailments like anxiety and depression are being diagnosed more and more, and alongside that, the prescription of heavy-duty drugs to treat the conditions has grown too. The use of one drug in particular has skyrocketed. The antipsychotic, commonly marketed as Seroquel, is supposed to be used for serious illnesses like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. But a vigorous marketing push by its American manufacturer has led to it being widely used for a range of common complaints, from insomnia to eating disorders. Now, doctors are warning the drug is being massively overprescribed and that potentially dangerous side effects are being ignored. Louise Milligan reports.
But it's not cool to be broken in what should be a time when every dream you had is taken by the nightmare in your mind.
Heidi Everett is singing about being diagnosed with schizophrenia.
This gets a freakier dream. Hope there's angels watching over me.
For more than a decade, Heidi has been on the drug Seroquel, an antipsychotic. It acts as a powerful sedative.
So I was a zombie for 24 hours a day, sleeping incredibly long. When I did finally get out of bed, it was a struggle to get to the kitchen. And then what happens on Seroquel is that it freezes your muscles and shuts your muscle system down. So it's really hard to walk. And when I did walk, I had no control over my ability to stop walking, so I walked into walls.
She also developed a heart condition known as tachycardia.
It's where your heart starts beating extremely fast and out of control. And I don't mean just like a little flurry. I mean for 2 or 3 hours of extreme, just pounding, fast heart rate.
Heidi is not alone.
Anybody out there that's trying to get off the Seroquel, I am feeling for you like you wouldn't believe.
I hate it. I absolutely detest it. It's like wading through mud. It's dreadful.
Seroquel, sold by pharmaceutical giant AstraZeneca, was approved for use for schizophrenia and bipolar disorder.
It's very interesting that when it was first coming onto the market, I think I speak on behalf of my colleagues as much as myself, we were very excited about this medication because it read very well on paper.
The medical community was concerned about the addictive qualities of other sedatives, benzodiazepines like Valium.
This gave rise to what I call benzophobia. People became terrified of prescribing benzodiazepines to their patients because of the fear of addiction and tolerance and withdrawal. So they looked for alternatives, and round about this time Seroquel appeared.
Our goal is to provide medicines that are best in class and have a positive, life-changing impact on the lives of Australians.
In Australia, Seroquel has now become a blockbuster drug. Over the past decade, Medicare statistics show the prescribing of Seroquel grew from about 1,500 scripts a year in 2000 to almost 1 million by the end of last year, a trend not mirrored by other antipsychotics.
Seroquel is a marketing and commercial triumph. Whether it's a triumph for medication, I'm not so sure.
How has it come about that a medication that's been designed for the treatment of a very rare condition has become so popular? And that is the ultimate question that needs to be answered.
AstraZeneca realised, as many other pharmaceutical companies did, that the market in schizophrenia is very static. So about 0.8% of the population will suffer from schizophrenia, and that is a relatively small market compared to, say, depression. So there's been a number of strategies that have been used to try and penetrate the depression market.
Psychopharmacologist Professor Ian McGregor has charted with extreme concern the explosion in use of this antipsychotic being prescribed for a host of maladies for which it is not approved or intended.
So we see quetiapine being used in anxiety, it's used in depression, it's being used for insomnia, it's used a lot in people who have drug and alcohol problems. It's used in things like anorexia nervosa. I think of it as the Swiss Army knife drug. So if you look at a Swiss Army knife, it has all these different tools within the one tool for different application.
It's known as off-label prescription, doctors prescribing medication for uses not approved by the regulatory authority. It's thought that a big growth area is insomnia.
It's a very powerful tranquilizer, particularly in higher doses. It will send people straight to sleep. It's very, very good at doing that. But if you look at the long-term effects, they can be very serious.
Until last year, Seroquel, an antipsychotic, was the 5th largest selling pharmaceutical of any kind, generating $6 billion in global sales for its manufacturer, AstraZeneca. In 2012, the patent for Seroquel expired and AstraZeneca's sales plummeted. But it's estimated that sales of the generic drug, quetiapine, have only increased because it's so much cheaper.
Your doctor referred you about this drug Seroquel?
Matthew Fry is the clinical director at Melbourne's Turning Point Drug and Alcohol Centre. Over the past few years, he has seen some worrying developments with the drug.
We were seeing people getting toxicity from the drug, so that's things like over-sedation, collapse, and even overdosage where people required admission to hospital. And there have been recorded deaths as well.
He asked epidemiologist Belinda Lloyd to look into ambulance data to see how often Seroquel, clinically known as quetiapine, was showing up.
So we examined quetiapine-related ambulance attendances over a 10-year period and looked at those in the context of other drugs that are used for the same purposes and in the same drug group. And what we found was a really substantial increase over the decade in people being attended by ambulance as a result of inappropriate quetiapine use.
In just a decade, ambulance attendances for emergencies associated with the drug rose from 32 a year to 589 a year. This wasn't seen with other similar antipsychotics. And Victorian Coroner's Court statistics for the past 3 years show it contributed to 10% of drug deaths. Matthew Fry says worryingly, a black market in the drug has emerged.
So people prescribe the drug, giving it, selling it, trading it with friends, who aren't prescribed the drug.
It's known as Susie Q, baby heroin, Quell.
Forensic psychiatrist Dr Eric Monasterio works in a jail in New Zealand where Seroquel was prescribed to sedate prisoners. He noticed, to his surprise, the inmates started requesting it by name.
And they were citing all sorts of non-specific symptoms in order to get hold of that medication. I became alarmed about this inappropriate use of the medication and thereafter tried to phase the medication out of that clinical setting.
Help tackle depression one day at a time, one step at a time with Seroquel XR.
The biggest side effect is explosive weight gain and diabetes.
I really feel like I am paralyzed. With the weight gain, I can hardly even walk anymore.
I hate Seroquel, and I gained so much weight. I felt like nothing, I felt like a zombie.
So I was about 60 kilos before I was diagnosed, and I went up to about 120 kilos afterwards.
There was one study with children where kids on Seroquel put on about 7 kilos in the first 10 weeks that they were on the drug. That's fairly major weight gain.
In the United States, AstraZeneca has been hauled through the courts. In 2010, the company paid a $520 million settlement for allegedly marketing the drug off-label.
It came to light that during the approvals process, AstraZeneca covered up some of the major side effects of Seroquel in order to get it easily approved.
In a statement to 7:30, AstraZeneca Australia says it does not promote Seroquel for off-label uses. In its US television commercials, AstraZeneca now includes long disclosures about a whole range of side effects caused by the drug.
Elderly dementia patients taking Seroquel XR have an increased risk of death. Call your doctor if you have fever, stiff muscles, and confusion, as these may be signs of a life-threatening reaction.
The worst of the side effects is, of course, death. Quetiapine has been associated with sudden heart failure, and a study in the Lancet Medical Journal tracking quetiapine patients in Finland over 10 years found disturbing trends.
They were more likely to be dead after 10 years than patients who were on other antipsychotic drugs. And there was also an increased risk of suicide as well. And this is one of the ironies with this massive increase in the prescription rate in Australia. When you stack it up against other medications and other treatments, it doesn't really stand out as a particularly good drug.
Heidi Everett says reliance on drugs like Seroquel is symptomatic of an overburdened mental health system, which copes by drugging patients up.
I don't know, I'm desperate for change in the mental health system, and not just me, all the people I know who have a diagnosed mental illness. We're just crying out for better help and better support. It doesn't involve just medicating.
They got tickets on me if I sink or swim.
Louise Milligan with that report. You'll find a full statement from the company on our website, and as always, patients should not drop or change medication without doctor's advice.